Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about what could become Tropical Storm Isaias, but what is for now, Invest 92L. Now, before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. I'd also like to announce that we just launched a Patreon as of yesterday. You can join that in the pinned comment down below or in the description. It's going to be in there as well. We have tons of different tiers. We're going to be uploading a 7-day forecast for this tropical system, which is an extended forecast. And also we're going to be uploading our winter forecast part 2 early on Patreon. So if you want to be a part of all of those exciting things and help support the channel, you can join our Patreon down below. Again, it's going to be in the pinned comment and the description. Now, for today's comment of the day, I want to ask a very bold question, and this is just for fun, but how many named storms do you think we will see in the month of August that is coming up? Let me know, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at our satellite imagery. Remember, yesterday this storm was not looking so good. Now, all of a sudden, it is getting its act together, and this is actually a little bit outdated, probably from the time this video is getting uploaded, so you might want to check the most up-to-date information. One thing I want to mention briefly as we're looking at our wind shear, you can see that our storm is located right there in that little green strip there towards the bottom right hand corner. It is heading in a northwesterly direction, so what it's going to do is it's going to hit these red areas, which are going to be less favorable. So I would not be surprised that even though it's doing good right now, if it begins to struggle just a tiny bit before things get better, because it's going to be heading towards those green areas eventually. So it might not survive through those red areas, and we need to go over that as well. But if it does get through into those green areas, it's going to have much easier time developing, and it's going to be hitting much more favorable conditions. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on and take a look at NOAA's 2-day and 5-day graphical outlooks, and then some spaghetti models, things like that. Alright, so here's our 2-day graphical tropical weather outlook. As you can see, they've given it an 80% chance of development here over the next 2 days. Again, yesterday I said I did not think it would develop today or tomorrow. It is looking more likely that it could develop today actually now. We are just under tropical storm status. It is hovering right on that line. We've had a buoy pick up on some of those tropical storm winds, so they are going to send an airplane into the storm today actually to test and see if it is in fact tropical storm status. If it is, they will be upgrading it this afternoon to a tropical storm, maybe this evening as well, possibly. If not, they will keep it under tropical storm status, but probably tropical depression by this evening at least. All right, now here's the 5-day tropical graphical weather outlook here. And as you can see, a 90% chance of development here. So they are expecting that this one is for sure going to develop over the next 5 days, despite the unfavorable conditions. So I said there's some favorable conditions, and there's a chance that it's going to have some tough times ahead, developing pretty briefly. But NOAA really doesn't think this storm's going to have too much trouble. So we will see what happens with that, and just keeping all the options on the table. What we're going to do is we're going to move on, take a look at some surface maps, take a look at some of the high pressure systems and where they're located. And then we're going to take a look at our spaghetti models and the intensity guidance from the models, and then some other things. Alright, now here we are taking a look, and what we're doing is we're just looking here at our pressure systems here. You can see that this is going to be for about Wednesday, which is around the time the storm might be in the area. And as you can see, we are going to have some, I would say, clockwise rotation there near the East Coast, but offshore, and that's some high pressure setting up. You can see all sorts of H's getting pretty close there to the East Coast. If this occurs this way, what we're going to see is it's going to be forced to basically hit the East Coast, and it's not going to have much room to go any further eastward, and that's going to be kind of a worst case scenario. And what this is really going to differ on is we might see this push even further westward, which would maybe push it into either the Gulf or Florida. But if it's a little bit further eastward, we will see maybe the mid-Atlantic get more impacted. These are some things that are pretty far out, and I just wanted to mention this. These are going to be the types of things we're going to need to watch moving forward. As of right now, the models do have some high pressure systems set up in some alarming areas that would lead me to believe that this could very likely be an East Coast threat. It's very possible at this point, and that's kind of why I said East Coast, or I put major threat question mark on the East Coast in the thumbnail, because there is some slight odds that it isn't, but it is looking more and more likely each day that it is potentially going to impact the East Coast. All right, now here's our spaghetti models, and as you can see, following suit, none of them go too far eastward, and it's probably because of that reason that I just mentioned before. The high pressure systems are set up in an area where they're not going to be really able to go too far east, really. So most of these models have actually a Florida impact as of this morning. Some of them show North Carolina as well, but I would say anywhere from Florida to maybe just offshore of the East Coast and not really hitting it is a possibility at this point. Even a Gulf entry isn't a complete impossibility at this point, I would say. And a little bit of an out-to-sea track as well is possible. So there's a lot of possibilities on the table, and I don't want anybody to feel like I'm certain of anything because at this point, I'm really not, to be honest. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at the ensemble spaghetti models, the GEFS and the GEPS, which is the Canadian ensemble model, and then we're going to move on and take a look at some other things as well. All right, now here's our GEFS, and as you can see, again, this is as of this morning. This is the 6Z. Probably by the time I'm uploading this video, it's probably going to be a 12Z will probably be available for you guys to see. I might make a Patreon post on that as well that you guys can check out. But what we're going to do here is just take a look at all these individual members. You can see one enters the Gulf there, actually maybe two. One is a Florida Panhandle hit. There is a couple Florida impacts, but this one actually keeps it much further eastward than what a lot of those individual models were showing. But again, none of these members are able to go too far eastward because of those high pressure systems being set up very close to the coast. So this one is looking extremely likely. I would say 95% chance that if it does survive those unfavorable conditions, that's kind of a necessity at this point, by the way, if you haven't noticed with the way I'm speaking. This is all assuming that it survives through those unfavorable conditions. It will probably track very close to the East Coast, if not hit the East Coast. And that's kind of our biggest problem that we're going to be running into here soon in the coming days. Now, the Canadian ensemble model here has a very similar outlook, except this one usually fluctuates a lot with its individual models. There is one there that shows it go very far eastward. Again, extremely unlikely at this point, but there is one ensemble member here that does have it kind of heading straight for where those high pressure systems are set up. So this model, I'm assuming, does have the high pressure in a different location. There's a few Gulf entries as well, which is very interesting. Again, it's not out of the question that this one could go into the Gulf. It's becoming ever more likely, though, that this one does hit the East Coast, or it's near the East Coast at least. But this one has actually, on average, a Florida impact, which is pretty interesting as well. What we're going to do is we're going to move on, take a look at the intensity guidance, and as well as our direct weather official forecast, and maybe some other things as well. All right, so here's the intensity guidance. One thing I want to mention for our patrons is that we are going to be making those direct weather intensity forecast maps for our patrons. So if you are interested in that, it's very, very cheap. You can go check it out. Again, the pinned comment and the description that's going to be in, where we have lots of useful and very interesting information available to you guys for just an absolute steal of a price. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this. And as you can see, we're nearing tropical storm status as of the 6Z. Again, the 12Z is going to come out and probably be more intense by the time that is coming out. But as you can see, these basically every single one of these has it at least hitting tropical storm status. So it is extremely likely that we get Tropical Storm Isaias at least. But a lot of these also have this climbing towards moderate to strong tropical storm status. And after 72 hours, they do have a drop off of intensity. And I think that's probably due to these unfavorable conditions that it might enter eventually. So we're going to need to really watch that closely. There is a few that have it climb into hurricane status, but again, we're not going to really make any calls that far out as far as what this one might do. Now, here's our official 5-day forecast here from Direct Weather for this one. Now, the one thing I want to mention is, again, for our patrons, we are going to be making extended 7-day graphical forecasts for our tropical outlooks so far this tropical season, at least. Obviously, that's not going to be available in the wintertime because there won't be any storms, but we do have an extended 7-day forecast available for you guys there on the Patreon page. That's going to be available later today, so you can check that out if you do choose to join. You can see I left a little area there that says much more favorable. Once it enters north, I would say once it's north of Dominican Republic and Haiti, if it does get there, it's going to enter much more favorable conditions that are really going to allow for this one to just intensify freely, and it's not going to run into much problems after that point. So if it is going to intensify a lot, it's going to be somewhere probably near the Bahamas or off the southeast coast there. As you can see, we keep the brief, I would say very slight probability that this one enters the Gulf. at this point, but it's much more likely, as you can tell with the direction of where our cone heads, that it's going to be offshore of the East Coast most likely, probably not too far offshore. If anything, I would say it's likely that it could hit the East Coast in some areas, but again, it's very far out, so we're going to need to really track this one over the coming days. All right, now for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, do you think we're going to enter a little break here coming up for the beginning portion of August for tropical activity? And Pit Crew said, I think we already had our little break, and that's kind of true. We did have a break throughout some portions of July, I think earlier July or maybe middle portions of July. Although I do think it is possible we do hit kind of a slow period here at some point during August. I'll need to make a video on that in the future. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share our video with your friends, family, and social media. And again, be sure to check out the Patreon page. You don't have to join, but you can at least check it out to see if you might be interested. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video.